Welcome to another podcast by I am Rami. I'm here joined today by Fari Salievski. How you going, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. And you said my name really well.
Nah.
Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Salievski.
Perfect.
I remember the first restaurant. My first time, it used to come in and used to sit around table. I could tell you 1, 2, 3. I think you used to sit at table 3 in the corner up on the window, and you'd always come in after your martial arts school.
Yeah, and I always
I
generally
still remember.
I always had a crew because the good thing about Rachets was they were open obviously longer hours
Yeah.
and bigger choice of food. So every time we did seminars or training, Rachets was our go-to.
Yeah. And little did I know that all those years, 23 years later, my brother would meet your daughter, and they'd get married, and we will.
Cross paths.
Yeah, and we've created a bit of a relationship, myself and you, in the last couple of years, where you've sort of been around and you give me the words of wisdom, and I call you Mr. Miyagi, right? You become a bit of an inspiration for me, I guess.
Yeah, I think that probably just comes with age. You know, people see grey hair and they sort of assume there's wisdom there.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's how I'm getting confused.
It's the new grey. It's the new grey.
No, I could tell you in honesty, mate, every time I catch up with you, Farah, you sort of, what do you call it? You inspire me, you motivate me, what do you call it? Like, when I finish a conversation with you, I feel like I'm 2 feet taller, you know. So I thank you for that, and I know you're a genuine person. I know when you're speaking to me, I know there's no what do you call it? No malice, or that's not the correct word I'm looking for. There's no
There is definitely no ego.
yeah.
And I mean, it's very genuine because I do actually, my goal in life, believe it or not, is everyone that I meet is to actually settle them down a little bit.
100%. And I know there's no agenda. That's why I could trust everything you're saying. I know your agenda, actually, you do have one agenda, and that is to make me stronger, to give me wisdom. I know that, and that's why I listen so
100%.
carefully to everything you're saying. And yeah, and I think people who are going to listen to this podcast are going to enjoy it, if you know what I mean.
Look, I just think it's my background, the culture, and obviously my martial arts. I put my martial arts into everything because, again, it all comes back to that loyalty, the discipline, the focus. And if you want to be a business owner, if you don't have those things, you know what, you're going to struggle. You know, you need all those things.
So, Fari, I know you're a family man. It's all about family for you. I know you've got a martial art business. I know a little bit about your life, but how about you sort of give the listeners a little bit of background of who you are and what you do?
Well, these days, I call it my semi-retirement job. I teach martial arts, which I have been for 40 years. So for me, it's about just trying to be active at the age of 57 because I'm not getting any younger, and trying to live and work for my enjoyment and my pleasure as opposed to trying to take over the world.
Yeah, now, Fari, I've known you for a couple of years, and there's one thing you always sort of how can I say inspire me with this family, man. You keep on always, whatever you say, you always go back. Oh, family, my dad, my mum, and I know that's one of your big values.
100%.
How would you say that sort of helped you? How would you say that sort of contributed to your martial art business? And
Well, look, martial arts is all about, for me, it's all about loyalty and about that discipline. So, look, it takes discipline to even be a family person. It takes discipline to remember who you are. And sometimes in this crazy world, especially the last couple of years, it's been a bit definitely on the crazy side, we can sort of lose ourselves a little bit. And look, money's important because we all got to eat. But, why are we working? And for me, my number one reason has been my mum and dad because they brought me to this country. So you can imagine, sometimes we have trouble moving suburbs, moving house. My mum and dad, they moved country, no language. They've left family, their culture, you name the whole lot. What an amazing sacrifice that is. And they ultimately did that for me.
I hear you, man. Like, without mum and dad and, us, like, the upbringing, I had a similar upbringing to you. I'm a wog boy, if you like. I know you said that earlier, or you might have said it off camera. Similar things, man. It's like you want to make your mum and dad proud. You want to carry the values that they've given you. You want to, and I think that's so important. It's so cool from you, man.
Absolutely. And also, too, the idea of valuing older people. I just think these days we've lost a little bit of our humanity and the value of elderly people. I think we underestimate them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The younger generation, do you think they have the same values that we sort of grew up with? Do you think they have the same I don't know. Do you think they grew up in with the same discipline? I know the discipline I copped at home. Like, I was never, I was never asked. I was told. I was like,
absolutely.
and told with a belt, mind you, not just loud, not just.
And you haven't turned out too badly, so maybe there's some value in that, right?
Yeah.
But look, I think the next generation of parents, because people say to me, have kids changed? I think kids are kids, but where I think is the current generation of parents, they're trying so hard to do the best for their kids. I think they're, like you said, they're not telling, they're asking. Yeah. And these days, if you give kids too much choice, I mean, obviously I teach a lot of kids, if you give them too much choice, they'll sit in front of a computer. They'll stay in their room.
Yeah. In all honesty, I see it too. I see it like in the workplace, especially with waiters and kitchen heads.
100%.
They're young people, 17-year-old, and they feel entitled. Like you ask them to, take the glass off the table or to clear a table, to clear a plate, and they look at you like, who are you to tell me? And I wonder if that's something that goes back to how the kids are getting brought up today,
Look, the work ethic is definitely not there. There's no ifs or buts about it. And they all want, especially with the whole Instagram lifestyle thing, they all want the lifestyle, but nobody wants to pay a price.
Yeah.
So, and that price is time, effort, and years, right? We're very much in a microwave society now. They want to press that button in 10 seconds, I'm there. Well, if you want that Ferrari, you know what? Guess what? How many hours a week is that?
Yeah. Mum and Dad need to give me the money, don't they?
Yeah, look, and that's probably, I think some mums and dads mean well, but I've actually heard parents say, I make it easier for my child. I don't want them to stress.
Yeah.
I don't want to, for example, they might say, look, I don't want them to do too much martial arts because they're going to get tired. Guess what? When you're 18 and you go out there work, you might do a 60-hour week. You got a mortgage, you got wife, kids. You're going to get stressed. You may as well get used to it. So we need to put more on their plate, not less. So the beauty of our cultures, and yours too, obviously, coming from Lebanon, you would have seen some difficulty. And, sometimes we don't realize the opportunity that we have here. We have a reference point that we can compare it to of why we can be so grateful. And probably I think the best thing that can come out of the pandemic is the loss of a lot of freedom, the loss of so much that we took for granted. There was a current generation that never saw any of that.
Yeah.
Now they have.
Well, what do you think the pandemic is going to do to the young people? Do you think that's going to harden them up? Do you think, I always wonder, all of a sudden they were told they don't have to go to school, they didn't have to go and work, they saw mum and dad at home. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing that they saw mum and dad working from home. I always wonder, and I wonder how it's going to affect that generation for the next 5-10 years. So.
Well, over the last 2 years, we've had record divorce, by the way, just so you know, if you look at the stats. So maybe it hasn't been a great thing for a lot of people working from home. I'm not a fan of working from home.
Yeah, a lot of people would have discovered that they went home and they go, who's this that's in my house? Oh, I've got a wife or I've got a husband. Where before everyone was busy, I guess, doing their own thing. You're absolutely right, I think. Yeah. You can see why, I could understand why divorce rates went through the roof.
Absolutely. And I'd rather people go to work also because a lot of people are sort of celebrating them working from home.
Yeah.
But you know what? A lot of employers are going to work out that you're at home working, and how much am I paying you? I can get someone in the Philippines and pay them to do your job.
Which reminds me, before we go off, it reminds me of a friend, and he said to me, he goes, mate, I went home and I discovered that I've got a partner, and apparently I was married to her and all the rest of it. And he goes, but this guy actually goes to me, but you know what? It turns out that I like her, so it's all right.
Look, it can work out good, but look, 24/7, I think having work, I just think it's something that a lot of people are obviously not used to.
Yeah, look, I get it. I get how people are going to be different now. They change. Even in my own work, you ask somebody to come in 5 days a week and they go, what? You want me to work in an office? Like, I work from home. I do my own thing. I could get to work for an hour and play around for 7 hours.
Yeah. Look, 100%. I get people saying, 35 hours a week, it's a very long week. I think that was my part-time job back in the day. So,
yeah, I know you do 35 hours in one day.
Absolutely. Look, now we have to work smart. As you get older, you want to pack more in.
Yeah.
But look, we obviously don't want to do this 78 hours a week. But you know what? When we had to, absolutely. And if we have to do now, we would do it in an instant. And we're capable and willing. We have the ability. I don't think the next generation are willing to go that hard for that long.
I struggle to understand why, because like if you don't, like when you work, like you get so much personal gain out of it. It's not about what you give your boss or what you give the. It's the business. I'm in the hospitality business, one of my businesses, and man, I can't get enough hours in a day, and I want to be at work, around work. Work doesn't. Maybe the word work should be taken out of our what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? You help me, Fari. You could take the conversation.
Well, yeah. Well, look.
Maybe we should take work out of our language.
I don't think work is a bad word to begin with.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't think we should take it out at all, right? But in their sense, yes, work is like a bad thing.
It is.
But work is purpose. Work gives you structure, and also too with work, guess what? You get a chance to not only eat, but if you have some dreams, you know what? You can wish, you can hope, you can pray. If you're not going to work, none of those things are going to come true.
Fari, I have to say I highly disagree with you. I think work should be the word work should be taken out. I think it's in the language and it's incorrect, and everyone thinks I've got to go to work. That's hectic. How about we call it something else, and we might change the whole world here, mate. How about we call it what do you call it? I don't know.
Fun time.
Fun time. There you go. We'll call it fun time, and more people will apply for the job now, and more people will come to fun time.
Yeah, look, it doesn't have to be fun though. People talk about, I have to work and it has to be what I love. You know what? How about I have to love to feed my kids? I have to love to give them shelter, right? So, the alternative is, I'm not going to work if I don't love it. Well, hang on a sec. There might be a time when you might be doing 20 years of your life doing work that you don't love because it fits a purpose. It's all about the results. So if you want to do what you love, it might take time. It might not happen today. But you know what? Right now, we all must have a sense of responsibility.
Everyone eventually works for themselves. Everyone works for themselves. It doesn't matter whether you work for a boss, whoever you work for. At the end of the day, it's about satisfying yourself, your family,
100%, the
community around you. And for people that don't like their job, I think it's a bit of arrogance, because it doesn't matter what you're doing. At the end of the day, you can get joy out of it if that's what you choose,
100%. It is a state of mind. It is an attitude. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more, man. And I see it in the people that don't enjoy their job. I see it every day. I look at them and I think, you're not going to enjoy any job. It doesn't matter what happens in your life. You're always going to be one of them people that says, oh, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got to do that.
The grass is greener on the other side.
100%. And you see moving from job to job, right?
Yeah.
From fun time to fun time, as we call it.
Absolutely. But I think it comes back to parents too, because, if you ask a parent, what's your goal for your child? They say, I want my child to be happy.
Yep.
I disagree with that. I want my children to be productive.
Yeah.
That is my goal for my children, because if you're not productive, right, how are you going to have happiness if you're not productive? Yeah. You need to be able to produce, to have that structure and routine in life. If you're sitting in your room, how happy are you going to be?
100%. I don't know about you, but I know in my own head, whenever I don't enjoy work every day. It's not every day. It's something. Sometimes I've got to do things I hate. You know what I mean? And it could go for weeks, even months. But I know I try and find something every day when I go home. I don't just look at negatives. I try and find a win for that day. I'm like, you know what? I did that today. And it might have been just the way I said hello to someone and they reacted to me. It might be me just saying, oh, well done to someone. I go, man, look at that. I've just won that staff member over. And it could be something big. I could have made, $100,000, $1 million, whatever that day. But I always find something to sort of, make myself happy at the end of the day. So I could turn up tomorrow, I guess, maybe.
Well, that comes back to being productive. You actually did something and there was a result.
Yeah.
So bottom line is you were doing. If you're not doing, you're not producing anything. So that's why I wish for young kids of today to be productive and active. I don't wish happiness as the main goal. That is a side effect of being productive.
Yeah.
We all need to get action-based, as opposed to these days, a lot of kids, like I said, they don't even want to work. Why do we have staff shortages?
Something I call you is Mr. Miyagi. All right, because you're always full of advice. I want to ask you, you're always full of advice. Is that the way you've always been, or is that something that later on in your life?
It's always been. Look, my background is sales and marketing, so I'm obviously a bit of a talker. You probably notice I'm very shy and I stutter my words and always short on ideas.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been, you know what? it's not just advice. It's always trying. I want the people to better themselves. What is your potential? So it's not just about living. If you live, okay, you're going to exist. You're going to be able to eat, have a roof over your head. That's one thing. But for me, if whatever your potential is, if you're not trying to strive to reach that potential, to me, that is a loss. That is failure.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm like you, man. I don't get it. Like, I go home every day, and if I'm not waking up tomorrow a better person, a stronger person, a more learned person, I'm shattered. That's the times that I get down. I'm shattered. I always want to be developing. I always want to grow. And there's one trick, and maybe the listeners can take it. I always believe I know nothing.
Yeah, look, after the last few years, I don't know if we know anything, do we? I mean, gee, it was a crazy time. So the last few years, I think, has made us all question probably so much of ourselves and probably the world, our communities, government. So we definitely do question more. Yeah. But do we question a bit too much and forgetting what our base is? And that's why I say to people now, get back to your family, get back to some structure, some routine, some basic discipline, and get that happening, because otherwise we end up, questioning too much and not believing in ourselves, and then we end up, a lot of kids are sitting there at the moment. They are sitting there not doing anything.
We've got a bit of shortage of staff at the moment in Australia, yeah? Do you think it's a real shortage, or do you think people don't want to work? Or I know they put up percentages like, we're 6% unemployment, 3% unemployment. Sometimes I question where those numbers come from. I don't know, do you? Do you believe everything you hear? Or
look, it's hard to believe everything that we hear, but the fact is that even people that are in jobs are taking more. The stats are people are taking more sickies than ever before.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents never took a day off in their working life.
And they're proud of it. They tell you all the time,
and
yeah?
they brag about it, right?
Good on them.
So people go, I got the sniffles. Mate, I mean, they would have gone there to work with one leg.
You know what I want to understand? Sorry to cut you off, man, but I've got to say, I have not had one day off yet, sick, since the pandemic. And I want to know how every single staff member I've got a couple of in the room, I'm sorry, guys. I want to know how they've been sick to the point where they can't come to work. And me, this old man, I'm not an old man. No, but I want to know how I've been able to, honestly, and it says a lot about what this pandemic has done to the world, doesn't it?
100%. But also, too, it also says, as a business owner, the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between being an employee and being an owner. The owner's always got to turn up. I mean, and look, I was just talking to a little cafe guy the other day, and somebody said to him, when you're having your next day off, he goes, day off, what's that?
Yeah.
7 days a week is in his little cafe. Wow.
You know what's funny? It's got to the point where I can predict which staff room is going to be off on what day. Oh, they haven't had a sickie for 3 weeks, so I reckon about Wednesday. And I swear to God, I'm not joking. I'm not joking, guys. I can predict it.
Well, Wednesdays is good because you can't accuse them of having a long weekend. So that's pretty clever, I would think.
No, Fari, that's where you're missing it. They have Wednesday to Sunday off.
Oh, okay.
They have a holiday. No, not a long weekend. Nah, it's cool. But it's fascinating speaking to you. I mean, every time I speak to you, you're full of wisdom. I think your martial arts sort of background, I think that sort of contributes. You got that discipline. You work around kids, and I know you're a bit of a traveller. So
Yeah, I haven't been traveling the last few years. But the reason I do kids is because people say, how do you change attitudes? And look, with adults, it's very hard to make them change their thinking. We can influence, we can trigger, but the kids, we can mold kids much easier than you can change an adult.
Yeah.
Because they're still like little sponges. So, they've got so much potential. And that's why I believe in kids. Kids don't have limits as such.
So you've been teaching kids for how long? How many years now?
40 years.
40 years, right?
40 years of teaching.
So would you pick a generation that's better than another generation? Would you say kids were a lot more disciplined back in the day than what they are today?
Absolutely.
And have you seen it is it a sliding scale or is it sort of up and down?
At the moment, I think kids are so soft. I mean, softer than ever before. And it comes back to parents. I mean, I'll share a quick story if we've got time.
Yeah.
The father says to me on the phone, I can't force my child to come to martial arts. And I'm thinking he's a teenager, 16, 17, discovered girls or something. So let me have a chat with him and I'll get him motivated. Anyway, he walks up the stairs at the counter. I go, oh, didn't you bring your son? He goes, yeah, he's here. I look over the counter, the kid's like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I go, you cannot bring him to martial arts? Oh, no, Master Fari. Sorry, I won't do that accent. But
Master Fari.
But he had the little accent and
Yeah.
goes, no, Master Fari, no. I go, how do I do it? I say, easy, you pick him up. He's like 5 years old.
Yeah.
He's there negotiating with a 5-year-old child. Imagine when he's 15. I mean, gee, and we said it earlier. I mean, there was no negotiation with our parents. They tell us, they say we do. I mean, even now, my dad's, I mean, he's going to be 89 in December. I don't question my dad. If he needs something, I just do it. It's automatic. And the story that I use with people is, like, if you look at the zoo, if you look at the little baby elephant, and it'll have the little chain, and it tries to move its leg, and then the elephant can't move. So then 2 years later, that elephant is now 2.5 tons. It's a bigger chain. It can still rip that chain out, but it doesn't do it. Why? Because it was conditioned from a young age. And they're the parameters that we need to put in our kids now while they're sponges. Because if we don't do it now, you're not going to influence them at 20.
How do we let the kids win? Like it must be us. We're the fault. Look, the kid
100%.
We're the fault. Listen, we're blaming the kids. Here I am saying kids won't clean plates, but...
Absolutely, because they give them a choice. I mean, I get parents say, look, I'll ask my child if they like it. I go, oh, I'm sorry, we need to stop there. You may not be the kind of person that I want in this school. Oh, what do you mean? You're asking the child. The child is 5 years old. The child is 8 years old. You're asking them. Don't you know what's best for them? This is something that you see the value of. A 5-year-old child doesn't see the value.
How do we end up there? Like, how do we end up being so soft on our kids? And because I've got 4 kids, right? So I've got my eldest daughter, and I've got, honestly, you know what? It's funny that we're going there in the conversation, because my biggest stress is: am I doing the right thing for my kids? Am I sending them to the right school? Am I disciplining them at the right time? And I want to give them everything, right?
Of course,
and
every parent does.
And this is my fear when you bring up this 5-year-old kid. I think, oh my God, is that what my kids are like? Like that's what I'm hearing now, and I'm starting to question myself and question what I say to them and how I speak to them. And
well, giving them everything is not giving them all the choices. So for me, it's okay. You don't want to do martial arts. You're also not going to do PlayStation. You're also not going to do internet. And parents say, I'll lock them in the room. Mate, you lock a kid in the room these days, they've got PlayStation, they've got TVs, you name it. They've got. I wouldn't want to leave my room either. I've got everything there.
Why do we have an undisciplined generation? And you know how I said to you just a second ago that I think it's our fault. I sort of get it a little bit. You know what? Back in Dad's day, when I was getting brought up, Mum and Dad had nothing much to do. They went to work, they come home, and they spoke to us, and they ate with us, and they talked to us.
Absolutely.
Now, Mum and Dad go home, including myself. I'm no better than anyone else. We go home, and what do? We go to our best friend. Yeah?
Yep.
The smartphone. Oh, look who's on Facebook. Oh, this is it. And every kid is sitting in that own corner. So I think this could be... I think I might have revealed... what's the name? Found something here that's gold.
I had an overseas friend of mine visit from America,
and
he was in shock that we only eat at the table.
Yeah.
They had not sit down as a family to eat on a table. They're more in the living room.
100%.
I was in shock. He was in shock. I was in shock.
Mate, I agree with that. My family and I don't sit at the table. Honestly, if we do it once a week, it's like we try and do a Sunday breakfast, right? But it's always my kids are, the truth. My kids are sitting in front of the TV eating. I'm in front of the TV, and everyone's in their own.
Take it to the table. Trust me. Yeah. Take it to the table, because in our culture, look, your culture too, the food. I mean, what do we love about rachés? People get a chance to get together, bring people together. Yeah. We should also be doing that in our home. Your table is a chance to catch up. Yeah. We might not see each other all day, but we're going to sit down and eat together.
There we go. Hopefully we've solved the problem in the world today, mate.
Food brings us together. It really does. I mean, that's our culture. And I think it's that's why I love rachés so much, because you provide an opportunity where people can actually catch up and eat together. Food is the best way. Look, back in the day, people say, how did you meet a girl? Mate, I buy them food. Back in the day, food is the best way to get to know people, I'm telling you. Because if they don't like your food, you're not going to like them.
Fari, what advice would you give the current generation, man, that all those youngsters growing up? What would you tell them if you could sit them all down in your martial arts school? What would you say to them? What would you tell them, man?
Well, number one is they all need to be in some sort of activity. Obviously, I'm pro martial arts, right? But regardless, all parents and all people, we all need structure. So when you're an adult, you get structure automatically, because you'll have your work, you've got to come home. it sort of sets into place. But we need that structure as a habit to build up for when we're older, while we're teenagers and children. And people say, what are you going to teach structure to a 5-year-old? Well, you're already teaching them structure.
Yeah.
They need to brush their teeth, have their bath, have their meal, and then guess what? Put their pajamas on, they're ready for bed. And you know, you've got kids. If you don't give them some parameters, if you don't give them structure, it's mayhem. You'll never get them to bed.
Yeah.
So structure starts from day one. You're never too young, never too old to set up structure.
See, for me, I mentioned your martial arts school. We could get them there, but I think there's something that the government can do. I think we need a curriculum straight away, urgently now, to sort of teach the kids at school what's happened in the last couple of years, what's going on. Let's bring them. Let's teach them something about, and I'm not the expert here, but experts need to sit down and work out what we should be saying to our kids at the moment. Otherwise, we're going to have a lost generation.
I'm a little bit over these experts because the experts and the science, I don't know if I trust them that much, you know. I would rather bring those kids from school, bring them on a tour to Rashay's, have a look at how your wonderful headquarters here, how it operates, and to motivate them, inspire them. I'd rather them see that, to be honest, than and trust a government to decide what they need at school because, look, they're doing less and less. Yeah. They're not being told. I mean, how about they just do, you know, maths and English, you know, some basics because they're really forgetting. Yeah,
it goes back to what we said earlier, mate. That's what I'm saying. You're full of wisdom, mate. And honestly, that sort of suggestion of maybe bringing the kids out to the workforce. Maybe there needs to be more excursions. Remember how we used to love excursions as kids?
Real world, absolutely.
100%. The real world is not sitting in a classroom listening to a teacher, you know, discipline you. That's not the real world. And I think maybe we need to take them out more.
Well, I think that would be much better than, and again, not bagging anyone, but you know, rather than be scaring the kids with change of climate and giving them fear, I'd rather give them inspiration.
Absolutely, yeah, mate. You know what, Fari? We can talk all day, but I think for the sake of the podcast and the sake of people's ears, we should probably end it here. And I thank you so much for your words of wisdom, and I think people will take plenty from this podcast. So thank you so much.
Have a great day, and martial arts for life.
There you go. See you soon, mate.